Some folks will like you and some that just won't. Some that stay real and some that just don't. Trying to fit in will only take you so far. You'll never find home trying to change who you are. So don't spend your whole life trying to be what you ain't. You can't hide your heart with a new coat of paint. You think they'll accept you, I promise they can't. So just be who you are, forget what they think. So just be who you are and forget what they think.
Welcome to Vet with a Mic, content driven by veterans issues. So today we're going to talk to Trey, and Trey is a fascinating story. He is technically still in the uniform, but he has ventured into the exciting world of professional bodybuilding. He received his pro card, so that's kind of a big deal for somebody who's an avid gym goer such as myself. So we're going to find out exactly how the hell Trey manages to maintain his life in the uniform and on the competition stage at the same time. Trey, buddy, how you doing today, man?
Pretty good. How about yourself?
Man, after a couple of little brief technical difficulties, now I think we're rolling.
Yeah.
Can't complain though.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk a little bit about how you ended up in the uniform, man. This is always one of the more interesting parts because, you never know how people get to the armed forces.
Right. So, born and raised, grew up in Clarksville, Tennessee. Came from not a very, well-off family, but poor in the most aspect. And for me, rest in peace to my grandmother, but she always told me to get a college degree. Mm. So that's one of the main reasons that kind of shifted me into the military. But long story short, went to high school. I was always into athletics. I played college ball for about 2 years. And then I was just tired of school, just like a lot of kids, just burn out on school. And I kind of put education on the back burner. So one day, I think I was headed to the mall, and I seen a sign while I was headed to the mall on Wilma Rudolph Boulevard, and it said free college tuition paid. So it was obviously an Army recruiting center. And so I was like, I'm gonna put my head in. So I did, and everything sounded good. Obviously, here I am 15 years later, and that's basically why I got into the military in the first place, is to get a college degree, and they helped pay for it.
Yeah, well, I echo that sentiment. I'm just a poor kid from East Tennessee, and for me, the uniform is how I changed my station in life. I wouldn't have been able to go finish my degree. I wouldn't have been able to go into graduate school without the help that the military provided me. And of course, the VA, the benefits that happen after service.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's a pretty common story. A lot of us come from pretty humble backgrounds, let's just say economically disadvantaged, right?
Yeah.
And so the uniform is a way in which we kind of find our way up into a different social category. So for sure. So let's talk a little bit about what you do in the uniform. I know that you are a bean counter of sorts. I don't know if that's not disparaging, because no. I noticed that you have a finance background. Is that correct?
Yes. And my college degree is also, it's a bachelor's in business with a focus in accounting. So it's still finance and accounting background type, dealing with money, dealing with numbers. I always like that kind of thing. But I have 3 MOSs, the first one being finance, the second one being acquisition, and the third one actually ending up a recruiter, right? So that's all 3 that I have at this moment. With my new job that I just got probably not even a month ago, it's dealing with 3 different detachments or companies, if you will, but basically managing their readiness and their personnel and all the administrative things that they have going on. So it's more along the lines of human resources. So near future, they're probably going to send me to school, and I'll have I'll have a fourth MOS. So it just keeps on going. You know how that goes in the
Yeah,
military.
I do.
You have to overcome.
So during pre-production, we talked a little bit about where you've been in the world. So you mentioned that you went to Iraq back in 2010.
Correct.
So here's my question: was that the first time you left the country?
Yeah, actually, no.
Okay.
We went on a ODT mission to. They split us up, our finance company, and they split us up. Half of us going to Germany, to Kaiserslautern, I believe that's how it's called, Kaiserslautern, Germany, and the other half ended up going to Italy. So ended up going to Italy, and that was just like mind blowing. I was like, I don't even want to do what we came here to do on the mission.
Wait, so you were in Italy?
Yeah.
Okay, I was stationed in Italy for like 3 years. What part of the island or the boot were you from?
Vicenza is where we. It was 3 weeks in Vicenza. It was amazing, and I was like, if every other place outside of the United States is like this, I want to continue to travel and do stuff like this all the time. So it was pretty dope. I enjoyed it. It was an eye opener as far as seeing people and seeing the economies and communities so different from how United States is.
Yeah.
So I liked it.
Yeah, I gave myself away a little bit. I said the island because I was down south in Sicily.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. So I was there for about 3 years, and it was definitely a meaningful experience for me as well.
Right.
But it's just interesting whenever you are able to go abroad, you see so much more of the world and the different perspectives in which people have. Right. So I wanted to ask you this: when you came back from being overseas, how did you feel going back to the American culture? Like, how long were you there? I mean, you were in Iraq for a year, so.
Well, maybe not Italy, but in accordance to foods and stuff, obviously they're not the same as the foods that they say is.
You mean Olive Garden?
Like take ice cream for instance.
Yeah.
Ice cream in Italy is the real deal, and ice cream over here is like watered down, right?
Gelato,
but,
yeah,
gelato. But after Iraq, it was obviously, it being in a combat zone, it shifted the focus more towards, a lot of things get taken for granted.
Sure.
Stateside. So that was the biggest eye opener, if anything, just to appreciate the smallest minute things here in the States that we just every day literally take for granted that, other countries like Iraq are not accustomed to.
I'm sure people who have heard the show enough at this point are sick and tired of me talking about this anecdote. But I remember I went on a leave period right in the middle of my deployment, right? Because the Navy does some weird stuff. They left me there for 2 years. Right? So I had a 30-day period, and I went back, and I was walking through a grocery store in the middle of, back in East Tennessee. And I just remember feeling a little disgusted with how many options for products that there were, because the rest of the world just doesn't live that way at all.
Right.
And I remember it really hit home whenever I was standing in the salad dressing aisle, and there was just like 42 different kinds of ranch dressing. And I was just like, what the hell is this? Like, what do you do with that? But those kind of interactions shift your worldview. Once you see how the rest of the world lives, it's really hard not to see how blessed we are here in the United States,
right,
and how many people tend to take that for granted. They just don't realize how much we have, and the rest of the world doesn't operate that way. And I felt that was the first time that I didn't really feel American anymore. Did you feel that way?
I agree to an extent. I felt like, what did I do all these prior years before I experienced this, let's just call it a economic change, even though I'm seeing certain groups of people live a certain way, but it's like completely different because, it could be a matter of life and death over there.
Yeah. So you and I both grew up from pretty rough backgrounds. I thought I knew what poor was, man.
Yeah. Oh man,
we were blessed, even with just barely getting by in some of the times in my background. I guess that's what it was a humbling experience to know that relative poverty is always pernicious, when you look, you can see that there are other people in the world doing better than you.
Right.
But when you see that, oh, you're actually doing better than other people in the world too, it just totally shifts your perspective.
Yeah.
Like totally. Yeah.
You no longer like complain, or you actually catch yourself complaining because you know, and you've seen that change, you've seen that difference. You know what I mean? And it's like, to me, it was mind blowing. Just the simple fact, something simple as hot water. And not the fact that, oh, we have hot water or cold water. It's don't, literally use all the hot water. Like, it could be 3 minutes. You have to go in, turn the water on, get wet for, your shower. Don't run it while you're showering.
Yeah, turn it off.
Yeah. And then rinse off.
Turn it back on when you rinse off. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're talking 2-3 minute showers max. We're not talking about these long 10-minute, I'll just
10 minutes
still in it. No, it's like for real over there. So
yeah, you're right. And that does change your perspective a lot. I don't think that Americans realize just how much plenty that we have here. And I know times can be a little tough for everybody, but it does. I think one thing that the uniform offers you is that perspective of, oh no, it's a lot worse. There's always more struggle in the world than we're really feeling here in the United States. So let's talk about, because I'm always curious. Like, I interviewed a few weeks back Mark, and Mark climbed Mount Everest, right?
Wow.
And so yeah, right. It's a pretty cool story. But it takes a certain amount of dedication to want to train every day to climb a mountain. So I guess that was a really ham-handed way of segueing into your pro bodybuilding career. But walk me through, because it's a little weird for somebody like me, and weird's probably not the correct word to use. I can't relate to the amount of dedication that it takes to be on top of your diet, to get the 4 a.m, like PT sessions, to make sure you're burning enough calories throughout the day so that you can lean out really hardcore. So walk us through, how did you end up how did you get into bodybuilding?
Actually, it was like I said earlier, I've always been an athlete, so I've always had the and thank goodness for my genetics, but I've always had that genetic makeup that enabled me to play various sports, track, football, basketball, and things of that nature. So I've never been exempt from getting into those type of things. So my body has just always been up to par when it came to
hold on. Now I played sports all my life too, right? But I look at a donut and I'll gain 5 pounds. So I think you're underselling it a little bit. Yeah,
like I said, genetics. But 26, I think I really started taking my actual health, not just I'm in the sports, but actually taking my health seriously when I came back from Iraq, because I actually lost, a good deal of weight, just being in that heat, 123 degree dry heat, not Tennessee heat. Lord, we know what that Tennessee humidity is like, but dry heat, 123 degree weather. And, I got pretty, down in size. And then I started to take my health, what I ate, nutrition, all that stuff seriously. And I just kind of maintained. And in 2016, I came across, because I have a coach. Yes, I have a coach. But he approached me and he was like, hey man, you got a pretty good physique. Have you ever thought about bodybuilding? And I'm like, no, not at all. Not a chance. Am I ever going to get in front of, because I'm kind of an introvert, but get up in front of a huge amount of people and let them criticize me, no.
I am. Yeah. I'm an introvert as well, and I have a little bit of social anxiety, so the thought of just somebody actually sitting there evaluating me is like the greatest fear that I have. I already feel like everybody's doing it already.
But he approached me and I said, you know what, I'll give it some thought. And I thought about it. I probably sat on it for about a week or two, and I was like, you know what else did I have to lose? I'm not doing anything else. And I've always had that attitude about me in life, just go-getter attitude, just you only gonna live once, right? So we started in late 2016, December, and I started prepping. Had no idea, no clue what I was doing. And if you go on my Instagram or my Facebook, you can clearly see I had no idea what I was doing. Posing was ridiculously off, but we all start somewhere. And I think a lot of people forget, whether it's their career or, raising their kids or marriage or whatever it is, people forget you have to start somewhere. It's better than not starting at all.
Yeah.
So we did that, and I did my first show, and we drove, I think it was an 11-hour drive to Illinois, and it was my first show. It was an NPC show, and I competed in 3 different classes, which was men's physique classes, true novice, and open men's physique bodybuilding, and I placed, I think, second in all of them. It was a good experience, an eye-opener to what the sport is, but I tell you one thing, the roughest thing was eating cold fish all the way. Because we couldn't, we was trying to get there, and eating cold fish or cod and asparagus out of your trunk, and trying to keep it as I guess kosher as you can. Yeah. But there's no way around that. But it's just being disciplined to an extent that it gets you to that next level. So fast forward a year later, and then I compete in 3 more shows, actually 4. I think I did a show in Charleston, South Carolina earlier the next year in 2017, a show in Alabama in 2017, and I placed very well at a national show, which was 4th place, and my coach was like, I think we may be on to something here.
Sure.
You should go do the Kentucky Muscle. So we prep for another 4 months, we do the Kentucky Muscle, and I win the whole show.
Yeah.
So I win my class and I win the overall whole show. And he said, you got to, and I remember this like yesterday, he said, you have the momentum right now. I'm telling you, that's how it is in this sport. You got to strike while you're hot. Mm. So 2 weeks later, there was a Miami Nationals in Florida. And he said, you got to get there. I don't care how you get there. If I got to help you. I was like, no, I'm fine. I think we can do it. So we get there, and if you place top 2 in your class, you get your pro card. And what do you know? I placed top 2, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, is this even possible for somebody that's brand new as I was to make that accomplishment in such a short amount of time, 2 years?
That's what I was gonna, yeah.
And that's how I became a Ifbb pro in 2018, and then of course COVID hit. So I had already planned on taking a year off, and in the midst of that, it made it 2 years. And then I did my first show 2021 last year, placed 6 at the pro level, which is really good. And but I didn't think 6 was good, but it was really good. It was top 10, and we pushed to do just 3 shows that year. The Optimum Classic in Louisiana, Chicago Pro, which because of COVID restrictions was held in Atlanta, and Tampa Pro. So I placed 3rd, which is a big, huge accomplishment. Nobody knew who I was in the pro league, anything. And once I were in that 3rd place, it was like, okay, who's this little guy? Because a lot of those guys are big. I know you guys see them. If you checked out bodybuilding, those guys are big. Even the men's physique guys are huge. And it's just being detailed and being motivated to come in and out every day and have consistency and eat what's on your meal plan and things of that nature. Just it helped me gain that confidence to keep going. So
sure. So let me try to summarize that a little bit. So you started in 2017, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So by 2019 you had your pro card.
2018, November 2018, I got my pro card.
And you have to win, or you have to place within 3 qualifying shows, right, to be eligible for your pro card?
Well, you have to win your class at an NPC, either your class at an NPC level or place top 5 at an NPC level show to make it to nationals, and nationals are the only shows that you can get your pro card.
Got it.
So at Miami Nationals, your top 2 in your class, you get your pro card.
Like, how many people are typically in a class? I mean,
well, let's take 2018. My class had at least about 70 guys in it.
oh wow, yeah.
Yeah, about 70 guys in it. And with women's bikini and stuff like that, they almost have like hundreds of girls. And this is like every show, and it's crazy the amount of,
Competitors,
and competitors they get.
And I guess that is a bit of the mixed bag, I mean, the more that the fitness industry grows, the more that bodybuilding world grows, the more people are going to be competing.
Right.
Because, I guess people like to talk about Arnold, back in the day.
Yeah.
But there was a pretty small pool of competitors back then. Not that Arnold is still one of the best, still great. I mean, he probably would smoke anybody at any era, but it was just so much of a different class of competitor then versus now. I mean, now even the people who aren't even making final call out are really, their physiques look phenomenal.
Yeah.
I mean, and I know just a little bit about the sport. I'm not saying that I am an expert on the sport at all. But so let me ask you something. There's got to be something though that internally drives you to endure the cold chicken and the cold fish in the back of the, and just when you go to a restaurant, you have to just almost say, no, thanks, I will have none. Whenever you're trying to like interact with the world, I'm sure you've got a significant other too that wants to go on date nights and whatnot. And you got to be like, well, I guess I'll take my own chicken to the restaurant, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of sacrifices that you have to make to endure this type of lifestyle. So tell us, what is the motivation? What is the drive? Where does that come from you?
It really comes from my childhood. It comes from my childhood. I wasn't the best at everything. Although, like I said, I played a lot of sports. I wasn't the best at everything, but I gave it my all. Even in college, when I played for, a basketball team in college, I wasn't the best at anything. I didn't have the height, but I gave it my all. I was like, I was always that hard worker.
Yeah.
And then it deep down inside, it just something. Being in the environment that I was in, I just never experiencing that. I never wanted to go back to that. I don't care what it took. I don't care if it took me, sleeping on somebody's couch, somebody's floor, or staying up long nights, doing whatever I needed to do, is not to go back to that point.
Yeah.
And it teaches you a little bit something like humility. And becoming humble, but at the same time not backing down from what it takes to get to where you
a certain tenacity.
Right.
Because something that I can kind of resonate, in the academic sense is, whenever I first started like going back into the college setting, coming out of the uniform, I felt like, well, do I belong here? Because I had tried college early in my 20s as well, and it did not work out for me, right? And so, but to your point, there was something about me in my childhood that lit this, I'll show you, right? You'll see, right? Yeah. Say I can't do that, you'll see. Say I can't go to grad school, you'll see. And I think that there's maybe something that you just have to have within you, just this tenacity to, no matter what the domain is. Of course, yours has been in bodybuilding, mine has been in academics, to just say, I'm going to do whatever it takes to get this thing done, no matter how much I have to sacrifice, no matter how many of the long hours that it takes, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head with the word sacrifice. I think a lot of people lose sight of that word, is because that's what it takes. Because I'm sure you've heard it. If everybody could do it, they would do it, right? Sure. But it takes that sacrifice. It takes, hey, your buddies and your friends calling you, hey, we're going out Saturday night, Sunday night. You coming? Nah, I can't. I'm prepping for this. Man, you can eat food there. Nah, that's not a point. I love you guys, but this is something I've already made my mind up in doing, and I have to get through because all it takes is one time. It's just like life. All it takes is that one time to get in trouble that you can't get out of. And it hurts you for years and years at a time. So it's the same in bodybuilding. All it takes is that one meal to really throw off your success of 10 weeks or 8 weeks that you've been doing, because it takes even more time to get back to that point. And a lot of time is one thing that we can't get back, that's not in our favor. So and then when we talk about sacrifice, but my wife, she actually used to do the same thing I do. So
she's a competitor as well.
Yeah, she used to be a figure competitor.
So she knows what she's getting into.
So and I think that's important, that you have a support system and family that can engage with how you're feeling, what you're going through, because it just makes life that much easier with whatever you're doing, whether it's anything in the military. You have to have that support, because it's really key to get into that goal, reaching that goal, or becoming that success that you seek after.
And I agree. A lot of times we talk about when you leave the uniform, which you have not yet navigated that great divide that is transition quite yet, but that's one of the things that you miss the most is the support structure that you had from within the uniform itself. Right. Not the chain of command. No, but not them, but your brothers and sisters that served alongside you. You did everything for them, not for the mission, not for the chain of command, but for your people that you worked with. They were your everything. They were the ones you spent Christmases with. They were the ones that you spent your off time with. Those are the people in which you really draw your sense of identity from. Right. And then whenever you leave the uniform, there's none of that anymore.
No.
You're just another asshole walking around Walmart. Right. That's all you are. And that's a big blow to a lot of people, myself included. I felt like, who the hell am I now outside of the uniform? Yeah. So I want to ask you about something, because this is something that Mark talked about. We learn a lot in the losses as well as the victories, right? So Mark talked about just failing on the side of a mountain, and how he knew he wasn't going to make the summit, and he just sat on the side of the mountain, and he had to pull out his sat phone and call his mom to let him know that he wasn't going to make the top. And he was climbing for a cancer organization. So he just felt like everybody was counting on him. And I imagine that whenever your whole social support element is also invested in your success, tell me, have you experienced a loss like that, where you didn't place as high as you wanted to, or maybe you saw it as a setback? Walk us through something like that, because you have had a really lightning quick, bodybuilding career to be able to get your pro card that quickly, because it takes years for most people.
Yeah, it does. And I have to, now that you say that, I have to say it was the very next show after Chicago Pro in Atlanta, because I played so well. I was 2 away from first place. I was third place. So everybody thought, oh man, he's gonna bring it the next show. Well, we go to Tampa and I get dead last. I get last place. So it was a wake up call that, and it wasn't like I was, being very cocky or anything or arrogant. It was just that, wow, man, my success, it's nice right now. I like for it to continue to keep going, and boom, you get last place. It's like devastating in a sense. That's what the learning from that is, what makes or breaks you moving forward. We hear that great saying, when you get knocked down, 6 times, are you going to get up 7, or are you going to stay down? So I think at that very moment is a learning curve for everybody, if they can just get out of their own way and the ego that a lot of people have. I think we can just learn from it and take what happened to us and apply it to the same hard work or working harder to accomplish whatever it is we want to do in life. And I think it's very, very important to do that.
Yeah, I think it's also, like I said, you learn a lot from the losses as well.
Yeah.
And I think as a culture, maybe specifically from the military culture, we fixate on successes because we don't like to attend to the losses.
Right.
But the truth of the matter is that you learn a lot about who you are through those losses. You learn a lot about what kind of spirit you have. Are you going to be able to muster up the strength and overcome the next one? Because I say this a lot at this point on the show. Between the peaks and the valleys is within the contrast in which we are defined, right? So we know that the peaks are not going to last long. We know that the valleys aren't going to last long. It's how we deal with those transitions is really what's meaningful to you in life, because those highs and lows are going to happen to us all. And it's just accepting the temporariness of them and knowing that we just have to keep enduring and keep climbing no matter what the mountain that we're climbing, right?
Right.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about your time in the uniform, because you just got a promotion, right? Didn't you?
I did. November, I got promoted to E7. It took 7 years to get promoted from 6 to 7, but it happened. Thank God for that. It happened. I waited patiently, and it actually happened. So that was a good thing.
Yeah. So you're officially on the dark side. You're upper enlisted.
Yeah, I'm senior NCO.
You upper enlisted types always causing trouble for us lowly E5 below.
Always putting out fires right now.
Yeah, I'm sure. So let's talk a little bit about what is your family life like right now while you're trying to navigate both of these demands of the uniform and the bodybuilding career.
Well, it's at first it was a little. Now I'll say this: if any recruiters are out there on any side of the house, any branch, MOS component, any component, they know how hard it is because it's 24/7. They give you a phone, they give you keys to a car, they give you a computer and say, hey, you got to answer at all times, because your goal is to ultimately put people in. So when I was doing this as an E6 and recruiting, and when I first initially started bodybuilding, I had a little bit more flexibility as far as time to do things, but at the same time, I was always recruiting. So it put a little damper on just like getting everything done at specific times for someone that had a regular, 9 to 5 or on normal schedule. So it wasn't easy per se, but like I said, the sacrifice of my, wife, shifting things around because she's a nurse, being able to like put in her schedule months at a time and, kind of shift things around. It allowed me to be able to do that and do bodybuilding at the same time.
So let's talk a little bit more about those losses, right? What are the sticking points that you've experienced now through your ascension to the E7 ranks and through the bodybuilding career? So those of us that are out there listening, you may be coming across a little bit like, man, this guy's got it all together. He was a college athlete, been able to just have this meteoric rise to the pro levels of bodybuilding. How do they see themselves in you? Those people out there listening right now, what are the parts of you that people can go, man, I really dig what that guy was just saying. I felt that.
I think I might have to say, and a lot of guys out there, and I say specifically guys, but females too, but being a parent through all three of these, not only a husband, but a parent, was probably the stickler that really pushed every single tab. So military, doing it for my kids,
Yeah.
Military, doing it for my wife. Military, doing it for my education. Military, us having the PT standards. Yes, it goes hand in hand with bodybuilding, but in order to achieve a certain, diet and nutrition plan that I need, I can't eat MREs all day. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. And just being able to interconnect bits and pieces of my life and, just shift focus where I can in order to be successful in the military side of the house and be successful at home and be successful doing what I love, which is bodybuilding. It's been really tough and hard, but I think deep down inside, the sticky point is just being able to I'm trying to figure out how to word this, but just be myself, because a lot of times when you're going from one field to another, we can change how we interact with people. We can change how we're interacting with our families at home, and ultimately our soldiers in the military or our higher up. So I think being able to control all three realms, or whatever realms you have, with the exception of being in the military, I think that's the sticking point, because it's really tough and really hard, because you're already sacrificing so much. Being in the military, I can't grow a beard like you. It's nice, but I can't do that unless, it's a religious purpose or whatever. I can only cut my hair a certain way. And this is a sacrifice, especially I'm going to be a careerist. You're looking at 20 years, right? We all know the 20-year deal in the military. Like, I like nice haircuts. I would like to grow a beard if I could, just to see how it looks, something different. But those are sacrifices and stuff that we have to give up. And I think you have to become comfortable with who you are as a person and go from there, because I don't think you can try to be what you're not and be successful at whatever you're doing in life.
Yeah, I guess that is true. Just be authentic, be sincere to who you are, right? Because that is really important in life. You can't be anybody else, right? As the opening song you heard, "Strong Like a Horse," forget what they think. That's kind of the general premise of that song, is just to be who you are. Don't worry about what everybody else thinks. Just be authentic and sincere to who you are. Yeah, because the lifestyle is a big sacrifice, especially for the little ones, right? They don't realize how much sacrificing they're doing too until it's after the fact, right?
Right.
Because I know that you're active duty guard, right? That's what you're doing. Yeah.
Yes.
So if they were having to pick up and go to a different school all the time, they probably would be really aware of how much they're sacrificing too.
Right.
But yeah, it's an interesting topic. I can't really, I don't really know. I don't really get the type of person that wants to dedicate so much of their lives to the pursuit of bodybuilding. It is one of those things. You're like an alien to me most of the time, because I have spent time around competitors, and they sacrifice and give up a lot for that dream to be able to compete. I mean, you can't even go have a pizza with your buds, right?
No,
it's just
and it's crazy, because you almost have to be obsessed. And I say obsessed lightly, because you're not really obsessed like an addiction or something, but in a hindsight, you are, because that's what it's going to take for you to get what you want and where you need to be. But you also need to make people aware. I think ahead of time is really good. If you let them know up front, hey, I can go with you guys, but I got to cut out at a certain time, because I need to eat. I need to get in my meals. I need to get my water or my cardio, or whatever the case may be. I need to get that in. So as long, I think you can get by a lot better if you notify and let people know on, in the beginning, versus, right then and there. That way they don't think you're, a douchebag, or, oh no, he's just blowing us off, or or whatever the case may be. So yeah.
Do you think it is an obsession? I mean, is it something
I think when you get to specific points in this sport, it becomes a real obsession. Like, okay, this person might need help from a mental aspect. Seriously. Because I think we all know body dysmorphia is real.
Correct. Yeah.
Real. And I think once you hit that certain point of obsession, that's when the mental health part of you starts to cave in, and it starts to take on a whole another monster that you need professional help in. So mental health a big thing like right now in this world, and I think a lot of people are starting to understand how important it is to be cognizant of your mental health and know those left and right limitations.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, because we talked a little bit before we started recording about how the bodybuilding world is perceived, because you're right, it can go too far. There are absolutely cases of people that it goes to the body dysmorphia disorder level.
Right.
And those type of people, they're functional in a sense, but they're struggling with it too, right? They found a way to find some kind of validation from it. And I don't want to put any words in anybody's mouth at all, but it is really a heavy burden to carry, and they do struggle a lot with it. And I just wonder sometimes, is it worth the squeeze to validate those type of interactions, even though if we know that they are detrimental to some people? Of course, you're not doing the physique, right? Oh, I'm sorry, which category are you in again?
I'm in the lowest level of the men, so men's physique.
Oh, okay. So you're not doing what's the upper end?
Open bodybuilding guys.
Yeah.
The big guys that everybody sees with the huge muscles. And no, I'm not doing that.
But you're obviously a well put together guy, right? So you're wearing your hoodie, so you're you're shrinking away a little bit, but yeah. But yeah, I get it. What do we do about I guess you'd say the dark underbelly of bodybuilding? I mean, where do you think the sport's heading?
I actually think, just hearing of some, as you know, there's been a lot of recent deaths in bodybuilding, but I think the league is starting to get a hold of a lot, or take it by the reins and accept that, hey, this is an issue. Your mental health is an issue that needs to be, questions needs to be raised, and it needs to be made aware of, as well as the nutrition side of the house. I mean, because it's a domino effect.
Sure.
But you're starving your body, you go into this type of shock, and then you're disoriented. Well, now your mental health is next. So I think they're doing a good job with just raising more awareness, because I think behind bodybuilding there becomes a lot of it gets a bad rap for a lot of different things, obviously drugs, a bunch of
the performance enhancing drugs is a big part of it.
I think that them approaching it the way they are right now is a very good thing, and it's making more of the people that's coming up through first time ever doing this or engaged with bodybuilding, they're aware of those things. It's just like internet and computers. Back then it was like, oh, that's a computer, well, we don't know what it does, so I'm not touching it until I find out what it's really about. And look at today. Now you can barely function doing anything without a computer or a phone.
Sure.
So you grow accustomed to knowing what that's about, and you have information at your fingertips to where you can be like, okay, I can research this on my own, and okay, that is nothing that I want to be a part of, or okay, there's certain precautions that I need to take to, eat this type of way and not pass out, or whatever the case may be, and be able to do this sport.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be too personal, because this is one of those things that it's about like asking somebody what their sexual partner list is. But there is the natural divisions who are really starting to take over the sport largely, because and that's just me from the
Mhm.
outsider's perspective. It seems like there's been a lot more natural competitions that are taken over in this
Mhm.
space, because I think people are realizing that nobody wants to die at 55 from a massive heart attack
Right.
because you've taken all these performance enhancing drugs to look a
Mhm.
certain way.
Right.
And so they've largely started to look at what's the longevity of the sport.
Mhm.
Is it worth to be, I mean, because how long does an average bodybuilder's career last? 10, 15 years tops, right?
You're lucky if it's, yeah, you're lucky if it's 10 nowadays with
Mm-hmm.
everything that's going on. Not to just mention bodybuilding stuff, but just like COVID, for instance. Like,
Yeah.
it creeps up on you and you're sick, and then you can no longer, or you take the shot or what, we've heard all these things. People can no longer breathe or the same that they used to, or they can't walk, or so it's so many other things that are out there alongside of performance enhancing things and stuff like that. So I think that as long as you do things the right way and diet how your body and your blood type and your weight and your height, I think you'll be fine. I think
Yeah.
you'll be fine. And I think you'll go a long way in this sport. But yeah, to answer your question, I think no more than 10 years, because it's really hard on your body. It's hard on your joints, your ligaments, your muscles. So I
Yeah.
think it's, a longevity game if you're smart. I think the longevity part is the best way to do it.
Well, biology is pretty fragile,
Mm-hmm.
and we all have to come to the conclusions that, we ain't going to last forever, right?
Right.
And you're right. Physical activities, certain high performance physical activities are really rough on the connective tissues. It's not just the
Mm-hmm.
muscle tissue.
Right.
And it's only a matter of time before the tensile strength starts to erode across time, right? Like I said, I've had two rotator cuff surgeries, I have
Ooh.
2 elbow surgeries. It was a lot, just because of things like the uniform, and then of course staying active in the gym. It's just a matter of time before those things have a cumulative effect on you.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that the bodybuilding world is at a crossroads, because the old heyday of tons of performance enhancing drugs are now looked at with a certain, I guess, condemnation now. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
we should have not been doing that for this period of time in the sport. I say we. I'm not a we. I'm not involved in the sport. I'm not involved in the industry at all.
Yeah.
But I do think that as a society, we look back and see this was probably not the best course of action, not just for the athletes, but what does it say to the young boys and the young girls growing up?
Right.
They have to see those images out there as well.
Uh-huh.
We all love Arnold Schwarzenegger. We all see his movies, but what did that say to the little boys and the little girls growing up that saw his image portrayed? Was that a realistic image for us to try to aim for? I
Right.
would be willing to say probably not. I
Yeah.
mean, Arnold has been pretty open about some of
Mhm.
his early, let's just say, mistakes at this point.
Yeah.
So I think that we have to ask ourselves, what are sports like bodybuilding, or football for that rather, what are they sending out to youth? What are they saying about the state of our society right now? And as much as I love going to the gym and feeling, physically active,
Mm-hmm.
we have to attend to those details about what exactly we're putting out to, about the larger society, and to those who may be observing, like children.
Right. Right. And I think this generation, with so many other things in the world, is probably one of the best generations to answer to that, because they ask questions. They ask
Yeah.
questions about details. There's no more, hey, take this protein powder because it's protein. You need protein.
Yeah.
Need 8 grams of this and that. No, they want to know why these days. I want to know,
Yeah.
why do I need to take that? Is that going to help me do this, or is that going to decrease that? So they're just, from a mind frame, they're a lot more apt to asking questions. And I think that's what a lot of people should have been doing the past 20 years, is asking
Yeah.
questions, because they've allowed it to get to a certain point where it's just telling someone to do something because they're Arnold or they're, whoever Mr. Olympia is, or this, that, and that goes without saying, from a textbook definition, that's ignorance. You're just doing what someone tells you to do and not really researching it or asking questions at the same time. So
yeah, and especially like, 'cause you and I are the same age, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, who didn't grow up watching like films like Rocky and seeing like Stallone and Carl Weathers and go, yeah, that looks normal, right? Like, those guys were just so like jacked, and it's and of course you can get there naturally, but Stallone got caught with some stuff coming into I know. I think the jury has definitely came back in on that one. But I don't think that I realized as a young tyke, like looking at those type of impressions in media, how they informed how I would see myself and how I would see the world moving forward. Because I was, first time I went to a gym, I was probably early teenagers, like 13 years old. Because that was just the thing you wanted to do. You had to like build up muscles to, like be tough, raw, And I just wonder, because even though movies like the Marvel franchises, they do still have some pretty big physically fit people in them, they're not quite as over the top as the way those like 1980s portrayals were.
Man, the Hulk, come on, him really being a normal guy and then being this big green guy. The disparity, I'm like, oh my goodness, man. But I mean, but think of the movie Predator. Whenever Carl Weathers and Arnold just do the right, that's not even. I mean, as much as we love the gym, you can't really be that way in the uniform, especially not like Arnold style. Like you said, it's really hard to stay that big while you're eating MREs, right? They won't let you be great in the military. You know what I mean? And,
you need to be average. That's what we need to think of.
Yeah, like we talked about, like you said before the show, like the PT standards are just they're kind of bogus these days because, like, take me for instance. My last 2-3 years I've been taped, but it's not because I'm in horrible shape that I've been taped. Is because of my muscle mass, but my waist is small. So it's like, they do,
lucky bastard.
Yeah, they do the neck. Men is the neck and the waist. Women's the waist, the waist, the neck,
the hips.
The hips. There you go. So it's crazy, like how they still use the old system, but yet you could be the most, like you said, you were what, 2 something, and
I was 250 in the uniform, 52-inch chest, like 19.5-inch arms, and they were still measuring my neck, which is a bit slender for my size, and my waist. And I always made the joke, it's like, well, they take your waist and then they take your neck and then they measure your feet to see what your demonic weight is. It's just so archaic, and it's not very modern at all.
Right.
But everybody always gave me hell about, well, you're borderline. Oh, well, no shit. Like, you want me to weigh 190? I haven't weighed that since I was a freshman in high school. Are you kidding me? So it's even those media representations of what the uniform looks like are largely, it's not even realistic, because you can't really, because they're, to your point, even if you're doing a job that may not be that physically demanding, your time is really a finite resource. So you may not just have time to go eat every few hours, like it would require for somebody to look that aesthetically big. It's just, how it is. I mean, when you're working 12-14 hour days, even if you're working in the office space, you may not have time to stop and go eat, much less work out and get up at early morning cardio sessions to look the way that those people look on movies. So it makes us all feel like, well, how do we uphold that standard, even if it's just the physical representations because not a lot of people just generally in the world look
Right.
like that.
Yep.
And yeah, it's just like it does some things internally to people, I believe, but
Yeah.
it's just an opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. So is there anything that you felt like we would like to get to that we didn't talk about today?
I'd probably, if you don't take anything away from this interview or whatever, I think I meant to say earlier, just when it comes to juggling life, especially when you're in the military, I think overall you should try to, and it comes with learning and failing, like you talked about earlier with the guy trying to climb Mount Everest, is to be the best version of yourself that you can. You don't have to be like others. Just try hard. It's okay to fail. Failing is basically how you get the ultimate outcome of winning or being successful. And I believe you should just keep trying day in and day out. It's one step closer to being where you want to be. And do that. Just be yourself. Don't downgrade yourself for anybody else or any one thing. I think you should take that and move into each and every single day. And don't be afraid to sacrifice something, because ultimately you're going to come out the best version of yourself that you can.
So is that the words of advice that you would give to anybody out there who may have goals and aspirations for being in bodybuilding?
Yes. I would say definitely research. Be a free thinker. Research whatever you want to do. Research it first. Hire a coach. Hire a good coach that's not going to BS you. And then just trust them. Trust the process. I live by that. Trust the process, because there's going to be down times. There's going to be lows. Like you said, there's going to be valleys, peaks and valleys. And what you do in between those peaks and valleys is ultimately how you're going to display what you're made of. So definitely do that.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because, the old saying is, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time, right? So even if it's something that you feel is just a massive undertaking, it's just one little bit by little bit, one step at a time. Incremental change across time leads to really big gains. No pun intended. All right. So if you've enjoyed this conversation that we've had here with Trey and you would like to spread the word to others, please do that, because largely what we do here on Vet with a Mic relies upon you spreading the word to others that you feel like would benefit from hearing these conversations that are largely meant to counteract some of the negative noise that you hear out there in the veteran community. So, in saying that, if there's anything that you would like to have talked about here on Vet with a Mic, please reach out to me. All across the social medias at this point, all of them, or you can reach me directly at ryan@vetwithamic.com. But as always, however life finds you, hope life finds you well. Till next time.